Hello there, holy people. Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited to bring you yet another dynamic, powerful guest who has been in my community. And so I'm excited to introduce her into your community. Before we get started, I do want to just ground us in what this episode is going to be about. And so I want to read into your hearing Hebrews 10, verse 23 and 24. And it says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. For he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur or provoke, in some translations, one another on toward love and good deeds." And so my thought for today is y'all have heard my story time and time again as I'm coming back into season 3, and the importance of me having community and just starting over again. My thought today is maybe you just need somebody to provoke you toward love, toward good deeds, to provoke you to start, to provoke you to do the thing, do it scared, whatever that looks like for you. But maybe you just need to surround yourself back into the community who are going to do that. And so today I am so privileged to have Miss Tamette Barrington-Haney, who is the queen of provoking at this point, honey. She gonna get you to have your business right, okay? She gonna get you to speak positive and do all the things. So she is a certified entrepreneurial mindset coach and owner of Tamette Solutions. She serves those who seek to be of value. She is also a single mother of 2 wonderful children, honey. Very articulate. They're going to speak life into you. They told me I was popping and beautiful and had good curls before we started this. Amen. So she has a son and a daughter, and she has built her life around resilience, growth, and helping others flourish. Tamette also works professionally in higher ed at North Carolina Central University as an academic advisor. And I had the privilege of meeting Tamette when I was attending Southside Church of Christ in North Carolina. So I am so excited to welcome you to the podcast. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me and for letting God use you with this platform. And I'm very excited to be here. That's how I'm feeling right now. So I'm just eager to leave my mark in the digital space.
Absolutely. We're going to take over. We're going to do it. Okay. So I want to just get a grounding and an understanding first about your journey, who you are. I mean, I know a little bit about you. You know, I see you at church. I see you do the things on your Instagram. But it just seems like there's so much to how you even put the pieces together with higher ed, with what you're doing professionally in your entrepreneurial world, and just even your life as a mother. So can you just give us an overview of your journey, what has brought you here thus far, and how you've gotten to where you are?
Yeah, sure thing. So I am the oldest in my family. And so I was raised in a loving home with my mom and dad. And we were always told, go to college, go to college. There's no other option, go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a first generation student, I went to college and I had big goals. I had wanted to be a speech pathologist. And at the time, it was about my senior year that I even knew this field existed.
Same.
And so I had wanted to be a sign language interpreter initially. And so I got to looking at the curriculum and I had a course physics. And I had no idea that physics was a huge part of this academic journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a minute, me and math, unless
It
it's
ain't math.
dollars and cents, math is really not my thing. And so I was really distraught about my sophomore year. Like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to graduate in 4 years. I don't have time to get, not know what I'm doing. I need to move with intention. I got to asking people. I've always been a question girl. I've always been the one to ask questions. And so I got to asking, I said, okay, so what's your major? What's your major? What are y'all doing? And I had a sorority sister who was majoring in rehabilitation services. Again, another degree path I had never heard of in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to my advisor and I asked about that major and looked over the curriculum very thoroughly. Turns out it had the least amount of math. And I was like, oh yeah, that's for me. And a lot of the classes just dealt with people and communication and listening and helping and understanding. And I was like, I love these classes. So I went on with that. I excelled. About my junior year, I realized that there were some politics involved. So when we talk about rehabilitation and those services, you have these other companies that are the foundation, and those things consist of insurance companies, right? And that is, I do not agree with a lot of the practices in regards to how they operated to make sure they kept clients. So essentially, when you get down to it, the goal may not always be to heal you. It may be to keep you sick so that they can stay in business.
Come on now.
And when I realized that, I was like, no, this isn't right. You know, you would want somebody to get right. And so, and a lot of the use of the prescription medicine, the unnecessary, the excessive use to prescribe people, I just didn't agree with some of those things. And so I had the choice, I could change my major again, or I could see this out to the end because I'm doing really well in it and I enjoy what I'm learning. And that's just one or two classes that don't really sit right with me. And so I decided to stick with the major. About my senior year of my undergrad, again, I'm right here at the end. So it's something about being right at the end where it's looking like, what am I going to do? It's not clear. I have no idea. And I need a decision made right now.
Yeah.
And it's been time and time again in my life where it's right there at the end and then God reveals. And so, again, my senior year, God revealed to me the degree of higher ed. And I'm like, this is a job for real? Like, you can major in this? They're like, yes. And our school offers that degree. So I ended up graduating with my undergrad in rehabilitation studies. I had a minor in drug and alcohol abuse. And then I went on to get my master's in counseling and adult education, all from East Carolina University. From there, I knew I was in the right setting, serving the people I wanted to serve, and just being a blessing to all I came in contact with. So I absolutely love what I do, but it was a journey to get here, and I had to ask questions and just position myself to be open to receive understanding.
Yeah.
And so, at one point I was at the crossroad between social work and everything that came with that. I had to know myself too. So self-awareness is key when we talk about decision making. And I knew I'm emotional.
Yeah.
So I will take all your baggage right on my back and listen, you and the kids, y'all can come live with me.
Right.
And sustain me.
People in the house because of your heart.
Yeah. So no, social work wasn't my calling, but I did find it eventually.
I love that.
So that's my professional space, and that 8 to 5 professionalism. Yeah,
I love
that was that journey.
I love it. Your journey is literally similar to mine. So I wanted to go and be a doctor. I wanted to be a pediatric geneticist. I love the math. I love the science. I was opposite of you. I was like, I'm here for it. Like, let's investigate. I'm very curious. And I was going in my undergrad studying biology. And then I remember just being in anatomy. And I vividly remember, like, it was a semester I had anatomy, biochemistry, and like organic chemistry. I don't know why my academic advisor decided that was great. Knowing what I know now in higher ed, baby, we would not have scheduled all these together. We would not have. But I remember sitting there in anatomy, my anatomy lecture, and the professor, we had a test coming up, and he just looked out, at this large lecture hall, and I guess we all had displays over our face. And he was like, I know y'all have been studying, staying up really, really late, so that you can study for this exam. He was like, but I just want to remind y'all, this is preparation so that when you go into the hospitals and things, y'all going to be working, like 24-hour rotations. Y'all going to be working, 12-hour shifts. I looked around that room. I said, I know he ain't talking to me. because I need a good 8 hours every single night. Oh, I'm expecting at 5 o'clock, I'm clocking out. I ain't gonna be in no hospital in no 24 hours. And so I just knew right then and there, I was like, this is not for me. Organic chemistry was not for me. Honey, I called my mama every day about to cry over my grades. I ain't never got a 13% a day in my life on an exam until organic chemistry. Then consistent was like 13%, 30%. I maybe had a 60% here or there. And then I still passed the class with a C. I said, now something ain't mathing, okay? Because this is just, when you know your class is hard, this is ridiculous. And, but I was working as a resident advisor at the time. And, that was just to, help my mama paying for school. But that didn't feel like work to me. And so I had a mentor, MK, who she's also going to be on the season. And she was like, girl, I don't know why you playing. Like, you just going to student affairs. I said, what is student affairs? What is higher ed? I'm looking at the degree list like, ain't none of that on here. I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't my option when I applied. And but so she's the one that, finally convinced me. I think it was like the end of my junior year. And I went to my academic advisor. I said, we gonna change out of biology. This ain't it for me. So what I need to do. And I went through several like epiphanies. I was like, I think I want to be a nurse because I don't gotta do all the organic chemistry, but I can still be in the medical field. And I was like, no, don't want to do that. Then I was like, I'm gonna go into community health science. And that advisor looked at me and she said, honey, it's your end of your junior year. You can't keep changing these majors like this because you're going to keep adding on time. And I was like, oh, we not doing that either. I know for one thing for certain, I'm leaving here when I need to leave here. And so at that point, she was just like, you only have a few more classes left in your biology degree. Just go ahead, finish those classes out. And then you go to grad school and you go into student affairs. And when I went there, everything just clicked. It didn't feel like work. I wasn't struggling to understand. I was excited. But still to this day, like, why we don't got like an undergrad that we could point people to? Because I knew I didn't want to be no teacher. I didn't want to be, so going to the education route, that wasn't for me. And so, but as I think back on that journey, it really just, I think, exemplifies the way in which like God works, because some of the stuff, if he would have told you straight from the get-go, you'd be like, oh no, that ain't me. I don't believe that. That's not it, right? And so to your point, there are some things where you're not going to know the next step. It might not be revealed to you. It might not even be a job created yet right now, but God is, wanting you to go through these steps, get these skills, get to a point, and then he'll reveal it to you. And then, he'll create the job. He'll create whatever. And so I'm encouraged as I look back on my pathway, but I'm also just like, did we really have to do all that just to get where we are right here?
Yes, it was necessary.
It was necessary.
It
Yeah.
wasn't necessary.
So what prompted you to start your own, so after your 5 p.m. Consulting and business? Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes during.
Okay. We ain't gonna tell HR.
So much break as I can get it. But no, so that story has a little bit more depth. And so it goes back to, I would say, after I graduated with my master's, I knew I had wanted to move to Georgia.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the, hey, Atlanta saved my life girl, but it was like, I need to get up out of North Carolina and I need to see something else because there is more to this world. And so I remember Georgia specifically because their air was just so fresh. And I remember driving through to Florida and the air, like I wanted to put it in a jar and keep it forever. And I know that's weird. I've accepted I'm weird. But it was so memorable. And so I moved to a small town called Milledgeville. And this is my first time living out of state on my own. And I lived there for a few years. And I had all kind of hustles. I was the girl that had serial hustler in college. So I worked like 3 jobs doing work study. I did hair. I did locks on the side. I was like the go-to person for, twisting and retwisting and styling. And so when I got to Georgia, it was still kind of the same thing. I worked my full-time job, but I wanted to stay productive. I wanted to I didn't want to just sit and be idle.
Mm.
And so I did hair that, people just end up walking to me like, hey, do you do hair? Can you twist mine? And it was like, okay, cool. So I ended up doing one guy's hair, and he introduced me to someone else. And, as he referenced him, he was like, oh, this is Big Homie. And I'm like, Big Homie? Okay, like your homeboy. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I can do his hair, whatever. So I ended up meeting this guy, and at first he was amazing, you know. And so I was working in a shop, doing hair, we connected. Long story short, we got married, we had kids. And a lot transpired in that space. So there was marriage, there was kids, and there were other things that were revealed. Things like, hey, he actually is he's in the streets, and he's in the streets heavy. And, when I first met him, there was a different narrative that was showed. I believe that narrative to be true initially, but I think over time, due to pride, due to some disappointments, he reverted back to what he knows works for him.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, I was a little bit too deep in at that point. And so I tried to work things out. It had got to a point where we were no longer safe, and I had to leave. Against his opinion, he felt like, why do you need to leave? We're fine. And I'm like, well, our house got shot up while we were in the house. So I think, we might need to just, back at home, we could always go to North Carolina, ain't nobody gonna know, we could start over. Nobody's gonna know you. And so he was against that. And so it was one of those things where sometimes you have a partner, somebody you care about in your life who is on a whole nother path. And that path is not aligned with what God's will is.
Yeah.
And when you know that, as a matter of fact, who do you choose to serve? Because if you are not serving God, it is very clear that you are serving works of Satan.
Right.
And so I had to make a very difficult decision at that time to say, well, I'm going to protect me and my children, even if he is not at a level of understanding. And so the day I got home from having birth of my second child, my daughter, from the hospital, I had a bag packed and I left. At that time, it's weird because he was a great father. And so he loved, our son very much. And it was to the point where, hey, if you decide to take him, I know where your mama stay and work at. I know where your daddy stay and work at. And so there were these subliminal things. And so it's kind of like, all right, this is a 6'7", 300-pound man.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. Then I'm learning things about his history in the streets that are being revealed. Like, tell me this before I married this man.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
So I'm like, all right, I need to be a little bit smart about this. And so I wanted to make sure I had the law on my side as I made these moves. But people who are in the streets, they don't really care about the law.
They don't.
Court order, paper, none of that. That means nothing. And so it was very tumultuous in that season where I had to make the difficult decision. I left my son in hopes of coming back with the police to get him so that I could make sure the rest of my family was safe and protected.
Yeah.
And so at that point, that then began the fight to get my son back. Now, I haven't forgot your question on it. This is all leading up to
You're
it.
good.
But then began the fight to get my son back, and that was an 8-month battle.
Wow.
And it was one where he filed for divorce against me in that space. Again, because I was seeking to please God first, I didn't feel like I had the grounds to file for a divorce. I felt like I did have the grounds to separate myself and keep us safe, but not necessarily for divorce. And so it was hard for me. Thank God that he put it in his heart, because it saved me.
Yeah.
Spiritually, I felt freed and relieved, and then physically. And so at this time, and yes, this is all how the business got started. So at this time, I'm fighting to get my son back. He takes us to court. We're going through custody stuff. He ends up winning custody of our son.
What?
And, I don't know anything about court, evidence. I'm just like, I'm gonna just tell the truth because it's the truth. To me, it's the truth. But the truth isn't what always gets by in court. It's about what you can prove. And I learned that. And so he was able to prove that he was a better caretaker. And you might wonder, well, how? You seem like a wonderful lady. Well, when it came to, I work full time. And so while you can't prove that you're the one washing dishes, washing clothes, cooking, setting an appointment, for the doctor's appointment, you can't prove that type of stuff. So he was, we split the daycare bill, but he was able to take the fee up there to pay. So, and he, picked our son up from daycare, things like that. So people were always able to see him in that regard. And so he had the daycare lady to testify, like, well, who comes and pick up the child? It's him. Who pays the daycare? It's him. And I'm like, ain't this
Wow. Wow. Oh, I would have flipped up that in that courtroom. Do you hear me? I know God working on me, but I would have.
Listen,
Oh my God.
so it took everything up in me to still stay the course of doing what's right, even when you're doing what's right, but it does not seem like doing what is right works. Okay.
Wow.
There'll be points in your life where it seems like doing the right thing is the wrong thing. Like, how is this actually working for me? Where's the evidence, God? I don't see it. And so I had to have prayer warriors near and far on deck. I was on all the prayer lines and the Bibles, pray for me, pray for me, pray for me. So I still attended church, worship, Bible studies faithfully. At that point, he was court ordered to come to North Carolina. I was court ordered to pay for his hotel and gas in order to get here. Girl, I know, it's crazy. And so, again, so I just had a baby. I just had a newborn.
Oh my goodness.
While I was on maternity leave, that's when I was looking for another job. Okay. So all this is happening simultaneously. I'm having a job to Georgia, 6 hours there, 6 hours back, because he refused to come down here anymore. He was a very prideful man, so he didn't want to accept any money or anything from me. So I was court ordered to drive to Georgia every weekend. I mean, I'm not court ordered. I had to because he was not following the court orders. So I'm like, I got to see my baby. So I drove every week. Mind you, while I was on maternity leave, I'm like, I can't live in Georgia. Like, I have to leave. This is not going to work. He has to come here if we're going to make this marriage work. And again, he was refusing. So while I was on maternity leave, I'm also looking for a job. I'm not getting hired. Resume clean and pristine. When I get in the interview, because of all these life things going on, I can't show up in the fullness of who I truly am because I have such a heavy weight on me. So I'm not getting jobs. I'm getting interviews to Duke, NC State, really good schools, but UNC, but I'm not able to get through the interviews. I am struggling.
Yeah.
So I haven't forgot the question. I'm coming back. So I ended up being able to get a job. At this point, it's where I graduated from. So it's sometimes not what you know, but who you know. And so I have a friend. We met each other freshman year. She works in a department. They're hiring. I'm like, girl, please. I'm struggling. Please put me on. I need a job.
I know that's right.
I get the job. But it's an hour and a half away.
Mm.
I can't afford to live in the city. I've just relocated. I left everything behind. I'm back at my parents' house with a new baby. There's a daycare bill, all that stuff. I'm applying. I got WIC. I got food stamps. I'm on Medicaid. I am start from the bottom. Now we here.
Wow.
And so, um, I ended up working there. So the scenario at this point is I'm driving an hour and a half every day throughout the week. I'm driving 6 hours on Friday and 6 hours back on Sunday. I have a newborn and I'm dealing with somebody who's very temperamental. So I have to be mindful of how I say things so that I can make sure I see my son.
Mm.
Um, Again, I'm still remaining cordial. There are so many temptations to do unto him as he's doing to me. To seek revenge and create this revenge myself. But thank God for the spirit that he placed in my heart to let him fight the battle.
Yeah.
And that he did. And so I always say, let the Lord fight your battles because his revenge is like no other.
Mm.
And so in the midst of this, he ends up buying a boat. He can't swim, but he buys a boat. And he ends up jumping off the boat in his driveway and breaks his leg. He calls me. It's like, you have to come get Ty. I can't take care of him. I broke my leg. And I'm like, oh, that's so unfortunate, that you broke your leg. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll be there tonight to get my son.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
So I get there and he's thinking like, that's our time to get back together. And I'm like, nah, I'm just here to get my son right now, unless you're willing to move back, but I'm just trying to get my son. So he's like, nah, you know what? You can't take him. I'll figure it out. So I'm like, what? So let's fast forward some because I know time is limited.
Girl,
End
honey,
up
tell
getting a
your
job,
testimony.
right? I end up getting a job closer that's in the same city that I'm living in, 15 minutes up the street from where I'm living with my parents. Girl, when I said I got on my knees in Thanksgiving when I got that job, so I no longer have to commute an hour and a half. I get a call from a friend and she tells me, she says, I just saw a lot of unmarked cars come into the city. Usually when that comes, there's a bust.
Mm.
And I get a call from my lawyer that he has been taken in. He was under observation from the FBI since February. So basically the whole time I knew him.
Jeez.
His phone was tapped. He had trackers on his car. He had been monitored about the whole time I knew him by the state of Georgia and by the Georgia Federal Bureau of Investigators. And so it's nothing but the grace of God that I'm here to talk to you today and was not incarcerated as well.
Right.
At that time, they told me, you can come get your son. I leave immediately and I'm able to get my son without any restraints.
Wow.
Now, mind you, he's incarcerated with a broken leg. So he's about in a wheelchair and he's now having to go through court and has a plethora of charges against him. These charges leads to him being incarcerated for over 100 years.
Wow. And it sounds like you have a resiliency, a hunger, a determination and drive to do all that you can do to make sure that you got your kids gonna stay with you, and we gonna make it work by any means necessary. So I think that's something that you can't, teach people what to do. Like when you are determined, honey, you gonna knock over some stuff to get what you need to do. So, honey, I am at all listening to your story. I had no idea that any of that occurred. I got goosebumps, and to just see you and see your personality now, like you carried that so well. Like I'm sure, this is years, over the course of a time, but this is like, how did you even get to a point where you like, okay, this happened, this is my testimony, and now it doesn't affect me the way it used to back then. Now I'm able to turn all those trials and things and speak truth to it and not necessarily be impacted, not be paralyzed by what that happens.
Yeah. Paralyzed is, that is something that really sticks out to me, because there are things that we can go through in life that can literally buckle our legs. Like, we can't take another step.
Right.
And when I couldn't walk, I had to crawl. When I was just laid flat out, I had to just move my arm, and just like any little bit helped.
Yeah.
And so, looking back, there were so many little daily things. It weren't the big, explosive transactions. They were very small little things, and they consisted of things like watching motivational YouTube videos. They consisted of things like on my mirror in my wall, writing things out like, I am whole and I am healed. I wasn't there yet, but I'm going to write this out, because this will be. I am a homeowner. I forgive myself. Like, I had to write things as if they were,
Yeah.
and they weren't there yet. I love myself. So I wrote these things out on my mirror, the things that I wanted to see and have happen that were not, it didn't look like anything was there. It consists of me not having a house, but buying a broom and a dustpan for when I get my house.
Come on, man.
Now,
Come on.
I'm going to buy my dish rags, my oven mitts, right? For a house that is invisible.
I love that.
It consisted of me being mindful of the music I listen to, who I connect with, the things I decide to participate in to get over. So I'll admit, at first, I did try to do things to escape. Smoke my way through, party my way through, drink my way through, sex my way through. That stuff still, I felt empty. It gave me nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. If anything, I was worse off.
I know that's right.
So it was like, all right, bro, these are the things that do not work. We got that list. And so these are the things, like, as I work with my clients, like, identify what are the barriers, what's the mindset, what are the actions that are not serving you. Let's establish that. Once that is established, then let's talk about what it is that you do want. What is important to you? So I also had to think about, what are the things that were important to me? What did I care about? And let that serve as my compass and guide. So I did, and I had to invest. A lot of times we don't want to invest the time or the money into what's going to help us, right? We can ask people, hey, can you help? We can phone a friend and ask for some money to buy a bag of weed, but we can't phone a friend and ask for some money to get some therapy.
Come on.
Can you help me pay for this counseling session, right? Is there anything you can do to take some off? We don't negotiate when it comes to that, but we can negotiate when it comes to, going out to eat or going to a party or whatever, going through the club and through the front gate. I know you can get me in for free.
I know
what
that's
I'm saying?
right.
But we don't do that.
And my girl.
Yes, all of us. Yep. 5 of them. Yep. But we can't do that when it comes to getting some real help. And so I made it my priority. So I went into therapy. And again, everybody tells you, go to therapy, talk to somebody, get some help, talk to somebody. And people don't talk about the journey of finding a good therapist.
Come on.
Because it is not like the first person you meet, this is just going to be just beautiful and you're going to be healed and whole in a matter of 3 sessions. No. So I had finally found someone and we had our session. I'm like, this is great. You're the person for me. And come to find out, she don't accept Medicaid. So I'm like, okay. Now I got to just tell my whole story all over again to somebody else. All right. But it was that determination, the The determination I had to graduate, that same determination I had to graduate in 4 years, that same determination I had, when I'm going to protect my family at all costs, it's this spirit that has carried me that I've had to apply to different situations. So it was one of those things like, I'm determined to be healed and I'm determined to be whole.
Yeah.
So if this don't work, it hurts. It hurts that I have to uproot all over again. But I don't care how many times it takes. I'm going to do this until I am firmly planted for the sake of for myself and for my babies. And so I ended up coming across somebody, and she was good. She was good, but it kind of felt like this is homegirlish. Like, girl, I'm sorry, I don't need homegirl. But I realized I was talking to a friend, and she was like, Tamette, I think you might be past counseling. And I'm like, there's something that's past, you can be past counseling. Like, what is past therapy? And so, again, I'm still working. I'm still serving. I still have enough in my cup to pour into others. And I'm still doing things to make sure my cup stays full.
Yeah.
So I create this program called Fall Forward with Entrepreneurship. It's a mindset program, and it talks about the entrepreneurial mindset. And essentially, instead of seeing problems, you see opportunities, right? And you create solutions. And so in the midst of that program, I had a lady who joined the program, and she was from New Jersey. She was in the body of Christ, and she was also a coach. And I didn't know, again, this is one of them things like, what is this? I've never heard of a coach.
I know that's
like,
right. What whistle you got? What sport you coach? What you talking about?
What is a coach? And so she had to first take a few times to explain to me what is this world? What is it that she does and what are the results? And so I thought that lady saw me for like a year for free. And when I say that transformed my life,
Wow.
it did so much more than therapy could do. It allowed me to take action to produce the results that I wanted versus talking about, oh, when I was 8 years old, I was raped and this and that.
Yeah.
I was past all of that. I don't need to talk about childhood traumas. I'm ready to talk about right now and trying to move forward because I'm ready for action and I'm ready to see some results.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things that healed me. Reading my Bible, and I'm talking about studying. I'm not talking about, crumbs. I'm talking about really getting in that thing. Leading Bible lessons for other women, sharing my story in the midst of the pain. And just protecting and fighting to be whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honey, this is just good. This I see why, honey, you a coach now because there's no way anybody can hear your story and think about the stuff they got going on and come up with an excuse. Like if you was able to do all this and persevere with all the stuff you had going on, honey, FBI knocking at your door, doing all that, like why I can't wash the dishes? Why I can't get up and read my Bible? So that is good. So I have a question for you. Now that you have your kids, you have, you're on the other side of things. One might say that even puts even more added responsibility, pressure, focus, all the things. How are you still now using tools that you have, new tools to continue to tend to you and to tend to yourself? Now that you're not fighting so much to keep them and change your circumstances, how are you focusing that energy on taking care of yourself?
Yeah. So I'll admit, this at times can still be a challenge. But what helps bring me back to being settled in a foundation is remembering it's easy. Once you know what's important to you, You're not trying to please anybody else. These are the things that you value. What do you value?
Yeah.
What's important to you? And so God, for me, my kids, my family, a peace of mind, peace,
Mm.
and my health. Once this is established as these are the things that are important to me, whatever else falls outside of that, that is what I let go. That is what's easy to say no to. That is what I can walk away from without feeling guilty about it. Right? So, it always comes back to this inner compass. And so I have a package that's called the Value Quest, Discover Your Inner Compass, but where we really sit and talk about what's important to you and then identify what's keeping you from executing that. And so now some of the things I look at, I read, reading also helps, but I'm reading intentionally. So it was this book called The Time Saving Mom. And she talked about really looking at the 24 hours that you have in a day. You're going to sleep. You should sleep about 7 to 8 hours. I work 8 at a full-time job. That's 16 hours gone.
Yeah.
I commute now. And I have a home now. So thank God I did make it into that house.
Come on. With
But,
your dustpan and your broom.
yes, honey. So I commute 45 minutes every day. But remember, 45 minutes is nothing. I commuted an hour and a half for over a year.
Right.
I commuted 6 hours for over a year. 45 minutes is nothing. God prepared me for this. This is nothing to me. So this is time that is fixed time. This is time that is gone. Now, what am I doing with the other hours? Right? I got hours. Those hours are so many minutes. What am I doing? How am I being intentional? So every day, at a certain time at night, I sit and I look at my calendar and I have to look at every hour of the day and assess what am I doing with this time. The times I'm getting overwhelmed, these are times that I may have stopped looking at my calendar. These are times I'm just winging it. And if I'm not intentional about the time that God has given me here on this earth, it's going to cause some anxiousness, right? Because I want to be not just a good steward of my finances, but my time as well, that time bank. So, to answer your question, I would say, what I use on my clients, I got to use for myself. I have to practice what I preach. And again, I always go back to that inner compass with what's important to me. So, and I've learned that sometimes when you're just starting off as a business owner, you get opportunities and you want to hop on every single one. This is a good opportunity. Let me hop on it. This is good. Let me hop on it. Everything that's good is not great.
Come on.
Everything that is good is not good for you. So I had to realize that this is a good opportunity. But if I say that my kids are important to me, yeah, I'm over here every evening trying to coordinate this event and program. Who is it hurting? Who is it helping? What is the return on my investment?
Yeah.
Because it's a snapping something,
Yeah.
right? So I had to learn, every dollar is not gonna make me hot. I can't jump at every cent and dime.
Yeah.
And so if I say no, trust that God has something better. That it's still going to align with the things that I value. So I've had to say no to some really good opportunities. I've had to trust. I've had to not know and still take steps. And I've had to not know and sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, that's challenging for me because as I told you, I've always been a person just doing. But I've had to sit back and just think. And a lot of people don't want to sit down and think. And I still sometimes struggle with just sitting down and thinking versus doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that answered it beautifully. So let's say there's somebody on the receiving end of this. They're listening to this. They're like, okay, wow, I'm inspired by your story. I believe. I can see the mindset, coach. I'm hearing all the things. I know my values. I know all the things. And then they say, but I ain't got no money. I don't know what's
Yep.
next, and I don't got no time. So, and what I have learned for people who are in that mentality, that might be a very real, like, listen, stuff really is here. But you
Mhm.
say it's all about shifting your mindset to overcome these
Yeah.
things. So what would be the thing that you tell them in response to get them from that place of, thinking to, let me accept my reality, let's change my mindset, and now let's do.
Yeah. The mind is so powerful. I've tapped into a space where I know that I am limitless, you know. And once you tap into the reality of that, it's just like anything else is an excuse.
Yeah.
And so for my clients, they compliment me, and they always say you ask the right questions. And so I let them share what's inside of them and let them hear themselves. Once they hear themselves, they realize these are excuses. People pay for what they want to pay for.
Mm.
Um, I ask them, if you don't do this, is what you're doing, will that get you to where you're trying to get to? Like, essentially, I have my list of questions, but essentially, if you keep doing what you're doing, is that going to help you produce the results that you're looking for?
Right.
No. If you do nothing, let's say you don't take advantage of this opportunity, will that, again, is what you're doing working for you? Because if it was, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
So I help you to paint the picture, and I ask questions like, why do you even want this?
Mm.
Like, these are the things that you say that you want. Why is this important to you? What impact does this have on your life or those that you care for? So we have to I help them to put the value, to see the value and remember the value of this investment.
Mm.
If I make this investment, I will no longer feel like I'm floating around, that I'm not aligned with a purpose, that I'll have peace. Like, these are the things that I'll have as a result of doing this.
Yeah.
But if I don't, these are the things I won't have. Now, I could have these things if I simply made the choice. And so we paint that picture that the decision is up to you. It's just a decision you have to make. And once you make that, you know, the results are waiting on you. So I tell people all the time, the money is waiting on you.
Mm-hmm.
It is money out there to be made.
Mm.
But, until you decide that this is what I'm going for and nothing's going to stop me, then you'll be crying poor and broke all the time.
Yeah.
But I realize there is a level of fear rooted that paralyzes,
Yes.
that keeps people crippled. So a lot of times they know what they should be doing.
Mm.
They need help with getting over that fear,
Yeah.
and they have to identify it. So a lot of times it's covered up in other things.
Mm.
It's covered up in, I don't have no money.
Yeah.
No, you're scared of, who are you as a healed person?
Mm.
Who are you really once trauma, and drama is out of your life? Once you let that man go, or that job that's not serving you that you complain about all the time, who are you? What are you capable of? So it's not always the fear of the bad things. It's the fear of the success as well.
Yeah.
And it's hidden behind certain things.
Mm.
And so we help to reveal those. What are you hiding behind? That's keeping you from moving forward.
That's good. That's good. So as someone who is not hiding no more, as someone who is here, who has arrived, who is doing the thing, is going to continue to do the thing, if you could go back and tell young Tamette something, if you could tell the younger you something about, based off of what you know, you are today, what you've been through today, what would you tell her?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with the first thing that came to my mind, and that is God is with you.
Mm.
Um, there's a difference between like knowing God and knowing God.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that in a sense like you can know God like, oh, it's God. He made everything. He made the sun, the moon, the stars. Jesus loves the little children, you know. But there's a difference between like knowing with expectation.
Yeah.
Like all I got to do is sit back and wait, and it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
And there were times where I was like, bruh, where are you?
Like, you late, bro.
Cause
Come
you
on. Hey.
you said you would show up. Now I don't know how much longer I can hold on to, trying to do the right thing. But you haven't, where you at? And our relationship just got so deep.
Yeah.
My trust for him just got so deep. So it would be one of those things that he with you. And I would say that whisper in those deepest, darkest hours when you are crying, holding your pillow, screaming, praying, pleading, please help me, save me. And that's the time where nobody else see you. Nobody has a clue or idea. These are the things that you are experiencing. Those I wish I was dead moments. Those, why it gotta be me? Why I gotta be here? Why I gotta keep going through this? Just take me out. Take me now. Those times I would tell my younger self, God is with you and you will get through this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I leave it at that. I would say, because if I did tell myself in those times, that pillow wouldn't have been soaking wet. You know what I'm saying? I would have been chilling,
Straight chilling with some popcorn. Like, oh, you see all this
Yes,
happening? He gonna work it for my
yes,
good. He gonna work. I just know he gonna work it for my good.
yes. Sorry, my camera dropped.
You good?
But yes, it would definitely be those moments where, it's just a matter of time. We're gonna sit back here and wait for him to do his thug thizzle.
Yeah.
So
And boy, did he show up. Okay.
I'm trying to tell you like no other.
Listen, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. So as we close, I want to give you the space and the opportunity to share with anyone any lasting thoughts you have, maybe what's on the horizon for you, how they can get connected with you. If they hear your story and they're like, hold on, she need to be my coach. Okay, y'all heard where she at. She in North Carolina. And I'm sure you open to doing virtual stuff, whatever, however people need to
That's
get
all we do,
connected with you.
baby.
Yeah, however people need to get
Virtual.
connected. Yeah. So I want to give you this space and opportunity to share if you have anything.
Yeah. So again, my name is Tamette Barrington, owner of Safari Solutions. Um, I'm seeking to serve and help as many and heal as many people as I can, just as I've been healed. What's on the horizon? I'm just continuing to help create more entrepreneurs. What I love about the entrepreneurial space is that you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And you have to make a decision to take a leap of faith. At some point in time, you're going to have to not know absolutely nothing and still move forward. And to see the results of that decision, it's so exciting to me to be a part of that journey, and to be a part of the transformation that occurs internally and then shows up externally. And so, I would say things that are coming down the pipeline are products. So I have journals and planners in regards to write down the vision and make it plain.
Come on.
We have goals. A lot of times the goals are so vague, like, oh, I want money. I want a better job. I want more money. Oh, really? Well, did you put a dollar amount? Did you put a time, a date on it? So really helping people to make the vision plain. So I'm rolling out some products in that regard. Offering more service in regards to events, and so continuing that. I also provide some grant writing services, so that is built into certain packages. So really cleaning up with some of the packages that I offer, kind of what is all included. So just thinking to how I can be of more service with all of the gifts that God has given me. I would say is on the horizon, but pretty much at this point is increasing my reach.
Yeah.
I'm not confined to Durham. I'm not confined to North Carolina. I'm trying to reach people around the world. So that is what's on the horizon, is just reaching as many people as I can, because peace is there. It is
Listen,
within reach.
listen.
It is within reach.
Mm,
And that I do know, as a matter of fact. So just helping open folks' eyes. And essentially all of this is to bring glory to God and bring others to Christ.
yes.
So if you, I am a firm believer in God. So I do seek those who have a spiritual grounding, or seek a spiritual grounding
Yeah.
as well. And I'll say that doesn't always look like starting off being in church on a pew.
Come on now.
Um, Sometimes there's a lot more happening outside of the church or outside of the pew before you get there. Like, there's a journey to get there.
Yes,
And
there
I
is.
understand that journey. So yeah, I'm just trying to help folks and heal.
I love that. I am excited for you, and I am going to continue to pray for your business. I am going to continue to pray that your testimony that God continues to use in ways that we can't even imagine. And I'm very confident that the journey that He's brought you in thus far is going to reach somebody. There's somebody out there that doesn't believe that they're able to start their own journey because of what they've been through. And I think you laid out so beautifully. I mean, it's for a lot of us the worst case scenario, honey, that doesn't happen in your life. And yet here you are, and you're still inspiring others. And even throughout your journey, that you can see now looking back where God intentionally placed you to pick up these pieces so that now you can do what you need to do. So thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your journey, honey. When I tell you I got goosebumps, honey, you finna make me do 50 million designs packing this episode. I feel encouraged to just knock it out the park. Alrighty, holy people. Well, that is that, honey. I am motivated to go out and do the thing, and I'm sure you are. And just as we read in our grounding scripture, honey, sometimes you might need that coach in your corner that's going to provoke you to do the thing that God been telling you to do for all these years. So you need to stop with these excuses and go on and get you somebody who's on your corner rooting for you, that's going to help you see this thing through. Because baby, when you see this thing through, you're going to be able to be you, shine bright, and stay holy. And if that ain't possible,
Baby, you got to take that up with God.
take it up with Him.
Take it up with the Lord.